Okay, and good morning, and welcome to day 3 of the storage bench project. You can see we've got all our parts cut to size, and today we're ready to start doing some joinery. If you've been following along on the plan, you'll notice that one of the methods that you can use to make these mortise and tenon joints is to use a handheld router in a jig that will hold it centered on the leg. You plunge the router in, you can make your mortise and plunge back out again. That's just one method that we could use. Today, we're going to use our Festool domino to create the loose mortise and tenon joint that we're going to make, and you'll see exactly what that is in just a minute. The reason why we have to put a mortise and tenon joint at the end of our piece is because gluing end grain to edge grain is not a very strong joint. If you looked at the end of this piece under a microscope, what you'd see would be something like a bunch of straws all taped together. So it's mostly holes in just the outside edge of the straws. So the glue would just get sucked into that, and there's not a lot of surface area to hold that joint. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a stronger joint and add more surface area with that mortise and tenon joint that we're going to make in just a few minutes. Before I got started, I had to check out the plan because we are changing it a little bit. We're using a little different size tenon, and because of that, we have to adjust for that so that our sizes stay just perfect, so that when we put our panels in and put the rest of the project together, everything still stays just the way it should be. So I looked at the plan and I made all those adjustments and measurements. So I've created a center line in the ends of all my rails, okay? And I've also marked the legs for where the mortise needs to go. This signifies where the top of the rail will be, and this is where the mortise center will end up. So the tenon we're going to be using is called the domino. It's made by Festool, and this domino is about 3/8 of an inch thick and 1 7/8 inches long. Half of it will go into the leg, the other half will go into the rail, and that will create a strong joint. And the way we're going to make the mortise for that is we're going to use the domino tool from Festool. It's basically an end mill or a bit that comes out a certain distance, and you can change that distance. And as it spins, I'll turn it on so you can see, it actually goes back and forth to create that tenon. When you're looking at it on the board, it has a nice center line that we can line it up with. We make sure that the plate is flat on the top surface of whatever we're doing, and we cut a mortise into the rail, we cut another mortise into the leg. We're going to have to adjust this for the legs because the legs are a little bit thicker. We want it to be centered on the leg. We also want to try to get it centered on the 3/4 inch rail as well. Okay, I'm ready to start cutting mortises. I've got the Festool domino set for my 3/4 inch rail stock. I'm going to cut those 4 mortises right now. So that's one half of the job done. I've got my mortise cut. My dominoes will fit right in there. They'll get glued. And now we've got to cut the other side. Now we've got to cut the mortises in the legs. And I've shown you before that I have those all marked out. And the way I did that is after measuring, I took a tri-square, I put it up against the edge of my board, and I drew a line across in both places, where the top of the board is supposed to be and where the center of this mortise will be. Now, because I did that, I'm able to just create a small little line that I'll put the Festool domino tool on top of so that I can line that up from the edge. If I hadn't drawn a line all the way across and I just had a little line here, it would be more difficult to try and extend that around. So this is a very handy tool to have when you're trying to do a lot of layout. All right, so I've set up a small piece of plywood here just to act as a backstop. So as I'm cutting this particular piece, a small piece like this is kind of hard to hold on to. So I'm going to cut those right now by putting it up against that little block and using my domino tool. That joinery is all set. We'll be able to put those rail and leg together at this point. I've sanded 4 sides of the legs, and now I'm just going to ease the bottom corner so that when you drag this bench across the floor it doesn't splinter, and I'm going to ease the corners too so that the paint adheres better. I've got an 1/8 inch round over bit set up, and here we go. Okay, we're going to head back over to the assembly bench and we're going to put these mortise and tenons together. I've sanded the face and the edges of the rails, so now I'm ready to place the tenon in that mortise. Okay, the way I'm going to do it is just take a little bit of glue, let it drip down one edge, let it drip down the other edge. Then I'll take a brush and make sure that I coat the entire hole so that when we stick the tenon in, which goes in fairly tight, you can see there's not a whole lot of room around that tenon. There's actually 0 room until it bottoms out, and that's one end. So I'm going to finish doing those, and when I come back, what we'll do is we'll glue them into the mortises on the legs. We'll add glue to all the mortises in the legs. We'll get some clamps out and we'll clamp this together. Take one of our pipe clamps, lay it down. Not quite big enough. There we go. Take another one, lay it on there. Get them tightened up just slightly. Just a little bit of pressure is all it's going to take. We don't want to bend the rails. We just want to make sure they're seated all the way into that joint. If there's any excess glue squeeze out, I'll just wipe it off, and that completes the front section. Tune in for what's next.